All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to explore something pretty incredible, how humanity literally rewired the way it thinks. It's this amazing journey that took the ancient art of logic and turned it into a super precise and powerful science. So let's start with a crazy question. What if you could actually draw a map of your own thoughts? I mean, literally chart out the paths of your reasoning, spot the wrong turns, and find the absolute quickest way to a conclusion. That, right there, is the promise of logic. And today we're going to see exactly how that map got made.
You see, the story of logic is really a tale of two very different approaches. On one hand, it started out as this art of thinking, a big philosophical quest for fundamental truths about reality itself. But then, over a long time, it morphed into the technique of thinking, a really rigorous scientific toolkit for analyzing things and proving them. And getting that shift, well, that's key to everything we're talking about today.
Okay, so let's dive into that first chapter. We're winding the clock all the way back to the beginning, back to a time when logic wasn't about all these formulas and symbols we think of today. No, it was about tackling the biggest questions imaginable, like what is real, and how can we be sure we know anything for sure?
For the early Greek philosophers, logic wasn't just some class you took. It wasn't a separate subject at all. It was the method. It was the art of thinking itself, how you reasoned through a problem, how you framed a question, and how you, step by step, worked your way to an answer. It was basically the engine driving all of their investigations.
And this quote from the logician Gottlob Frege, man, it just nails the ambition they had. He said, "The goal of any science is truth, but logic is concerned with discovering and proving the laws of truth." See the difference? These early thinkers weren't just collecting random facts. They were trying to write the universal rulebook for reality itself, the actual laws of truth. It's a huge idea.
All right, so that's the philosophical side. Now let's see how this grand quest started to change, how it evolved into something way more technical, something that could act like a compass for your mind, always pointing you towards a valid conclusion.
And here, this is the turning point. I mean, look at this. For more than 2,000 years after Aristotle, logic just kind of plodded along. It developed, but really slowly. Then, bam! In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, something explosive happens. Logic gets formalized, using the language of math. And that just caused this rapid acceleration, a genuine Cambrian explosion of new logical ideas and systems. It's wild.
So, what's the big deal here? The crucial point is that logic becomes a formal, deductive science. Instead of just talking about truth in this big philosophical way, logicians started creating what are called formal calculi, which are really just precise systems of symbols and rules. The focus completely shifted to the structure of an argument, its form, completely separate from whatever it was you were actually talking about. Now, you might think all this new technical power would lead to one single perfect map of all thought, right? But what actually happened was way more interesting. Instead of one map, it let us create an entire atlas of different logical maps, each one custom-built for a specific kind of intellectual terrain. And this idea really captures the shift perfectly. Logic went from being this sort of black and white system, where a statement is either true or it's false, that's it, to a whole colored spectrum of possibilities. It became this incredibly diverse toolkit with different logical systems designed for all sorts of problems, everything from computer science to ethics.
So what's the core technology making all this possible? Well, it's a mental tool that you and I use every single day, abstraction. Think about it. Our lives are just this overwhelming chaos of raw data, right? The entropy of experience. Abstraction is how our brains manage that chaos. It's how we focus on what matters for a specific task and just ignore the rest.
Okay, so how does this abstraction thing actually work on a technical level? Well, it's powered by three really simple rules for deciding when we can treat two different things as the same. First up, you've got reflexivity. A equals A. An apple is an apple. Sounds obvious, right? But that's our baseline. Then there's symmetry. If A equals B, then B has to equal A. Again, simple enough. But here's where the magic really happens, transitivity. If an apple is a kind of fruit and a fruit is a kind of food, then an apple is a kind of food. See that? Those three little rules are the engine that lets us create reliable categories and build up all this complex knowledge. It's literally how we turn chaos into order.
And this kind of specialization leads to some seriously incredible tools. Take something like intuitionistic logic. It's crucial in computer science, and it has this really strict rule. You can't just say something is true. You have to prove it by showing exactly how to construct it. But then you get something like paraconsistent logic, which is just, well, it's mind-bending.
It's a logical system designed to handle direct contradictions without completely falling apart. Just think about that for a second. It's the perfect tool for an AI that's trying to make sense of all our messy, inconsistent real-world data, where, let's be honest, people believe contradictory things all the time.
So what's the bottom line? What does all of this mean for us right here, right now? Let's take that map metaphor we've been using and bring it into the 21st century. How do all these different logical tools help us navigate the crazy, complex world we live in?
And really, this is the key takeaway. The whole journey of logic has been a move from a beautiful but kind of speculative philosophical sketch into a collection of practical, super high-precision tools. It's not just some dusty old artifact in a museum of ideas anymore. It's an active, powerful GPS for the mind. A GPS that we can use to navigate everything from writing code to tackling tough ethical dilemmas.
And that, of course, brings us to the future. Because this evolution, it didn't just stop in the 20th century. Not by a long shot. As we face these monumental new challenges, things like AI, big data, quantum computing, the question isn't just which map should we use. The real question is, what entirely new maps for thinking are we going to need to invent next? What does that next chapter in the story of logic even look like?